Thokozani Dimelang Lisedi. Hello everyone and welcome to the one-on-one sessions with Gogo Musore, and I'm your host Gogo M, giving you guys tips, lessons and teachings on everything spirituality. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the Indiki Spirit, okay? And when we'll be talking about the Indiki Spirit, we'll also be differentiating Indiki from Umdiki, because these two spirits are very confusing for a lot of people. And the reason why they're very confusing is because of the way that they are named. Okay, Umdiki, Indiki, they pretty much sound the same, and a lot of us would actually stop and think what is the same thing, because Linda at some point actually thought they were like the same thing. So this is why I made this video, to clarify that once and for all. Okay, so what is Indiki? Indiki is a spiritual illness from a particular ancestor. Okay, so Indiki, like I said here, is a spiritual illness of a particular ancestor, in which in turn it affects a particular person whom it chooses to help it. Okay, so this is a spirit of an ancestor who is not okay, who is ill, and that ancestor decides to choose a particular person and say, well, okay, you, my person, are gonna be the one that actually helps me. So what happens is that the particular person whom is chosen by this ancestor to help it will actually undergo a lot of illnesses, a lot of sicknesses, and this particular sickness is called Indiki. Okay, the ill ancestor wants healing so it can rest. Okay, so it wants healing so it can rest. So it could be like the process of Indiki can pretty much, the healing process could be the same, while for others it can differ here and there, but it will depend on how this particular spirit wants to be healed. But all in all, for it to stop, for the illness to go away, a certain healing process needs to undergo for this particular ancestor. The particular ancestor is not necessarily supposed to be spiritually gifted and does not require you to trust for it so it can heal. So the difference with this and other spiritual gifts is that, first of all, Indiki is not a spiritual gift. The ancestor that gives you Indiki is not particularly someone who was spiritually gifted. Yes, in some instances you find out that person was spiritually gifted, but not all the time. Okay, not all the time. And when you are going through the whole process of healing that spirit, Wotwasa is not in the healing process. You are not supposed to trust for this spirit. It is not a kind of spirit which you trust for. And once you are done healing it, you are not a sangoma. You cannot be a sangoma. You just went through a process, whereas you are healing a spirit, you are cleansing a spirit, so it can actually cross over and leave you alone. Okay, so what happens to people with Indiki? Okay, so people with Indiki experience a lot of illnesses, and the thing about it is that these illnesses are very much similar to the illnesses that people actually undergo when they are spiritually gifted. Okay, you'd find the person having headaches, backaches, feet burning, you'd find that person having trouble breathing, you'd find that person experiencing most of the things that you'd actually see or hear about in terms of people that have spiritual gifts. Because remember, I made a video about people who have spiritual gifts and how to actually know you have a spiritual gift. But you'd find that you have those symptoms, but you are not supposed to be a sangoma. You only have a spirit which requires you to heal it, to cleanse it, so it can actually cross over. And once the healing process is done, you will no longer experience any of the difficulties that you were experiencing beforehand. People who have Indiki tend to lose weight a lot. So when you get to a point, because you know what, you don't you're not initially born experiencing the illnesses from the Indiki, but when you start experiencing that illness, you tend to lose a lot of weight. You become so thin that you think, okay, you know, whatever this is could be a chronic disease, only to find that it is a spirit and not any illness per se, any westernized illness per se. The sicknesses are not recognized when doing Western diagnosis, hence no Western medicine can heal them. So you find out, okay, you are getting very sick, you're experiencing pains, you're experiencing the heartburn, you're experiencing so many different things. Okay, to you, that's what they seem, but you'd actually go to doctors and whatnot, and you'd find out in the diagnosis, the doctor's diagnosis, there's nothing wrong with you. They don't see anything wrong with you. This happens to a lot of people. There aren't any Western medicine that can help you, because this is a traditional matter. This is a spiritual matter, a very serious spiritual matter. So you cannot have, or rather, you cannot find help from any Western person. And also, people with Indiki do not dream or have visions, because that is why something that can help you differentiate to whether you may have Indiki or you may have a spiritual gift. The thing with spiritually gifted people is that with the illness that we are receiving, we also have dreams and visions, and so many things are shown to us. We dream of beads, we dream of sangomas, we dream of water, we dream of snakes, all those things. But a person with Indiki does not have any of those signs, does not have any of those dreams, any of those visions to show them that, okay, this is actually a spiritual gift. They are just experiencing bodily symptoms that are similar to those of people who have spiritual gifts. And Lorna, with all these things, you do not have any sign that shows you at the end of the day you're supposed to be a sangoma. Meaning, what, even when you go to consult, let's say for example you're going to consult and that particular person doesn't necessarily see that you have a spiritual gift, or doesn't necessarily see that you have Indiki Spirit, they will see that you're experiencing this and this and that, but they will not see you going to initiate at all. Okay, so when you have these illnesses, these sicknesses, but you don't experience any dreams, any visions, there's a high chance that you may be suffering from Indiki Spirit. A certain ancestor in your family lineage wants to be healed. Okay. Another thing is that the spirit will never lead you to initiation, and you are never required to do so. Like I said, with Indiki, you do not initiate for it. And that is something that people need to understand, because here's the thing, people experience certain symptoms, like a small symptom could actually be similar to that of people who have to initiate and be sangomas, and they automatically think, you know what, I'm gonna be a sangoma, and they go out to copelas and they sign up for initiation, and some gobelas will be like, okay, just come through because I want the money and whatnot. But understand that when you have Indiki, you're not supposed to initiate. Initiation is not part of the healing process, and what will happen is that you will only make the illness worse if you continue to initiate, whereas you have Indiki, because Indiki does not want you to initiate. Okay. And also, after healing the Indiki, you are not a healer. You are not supposed to help people. You are not given the power to help people. Because remember, like I said, when you have an Indiki spirit, you could find out even the spirit that gave you the Indiki is not a spiritual, was not a spiritual healer in their time. So if you are like healing this particular spirit, once you're done, the spirit rests. It's done with you. It's okay. It's got what it's wanted. It's gone. Okay. So that will mean you are not going to be connected to it that much. The same that you were when you were having or experiencing the illnesses, meaning that you will not be able to help people. Because remember that we sangomas, we use the strength and the power of our ancestors. So that is how we're able to heal people. But if you do not have any spiritual gift, you only have the Indiki, you go and cleanse it. Once you're done, you will not be able to help anybody whatsoever. Okay. How the spirit is healed, that is a very important thing. Okay, so one thing I noted down is that when healing the Indiki, the patient underwent through an ancestral cleansing. Okay, the patients underwent through an ancestral cleansing, because there are different types of cleansing. There's cleansing for a loved one when a person in the family passes away. There's cleansing for miscarriages and abortions. There's cleansing of removing general darkness, the darkness that is put on you by people that just don't like you. And also there's a cleansing for spirits, and the cleansing for spirits come in two ways. There's a cleansing for a spirit that is maybe one of the spirits that govern you, and this particular spirit, when you take it through the cleansing, you allow it to come to you and speak to you and give you guidance on how to appease it, and also what you need to do to help people and whatnot. But also there's an ancestral cleansing, which is the Indiki cleansing. This one is a cleansing which, once you're done with the cleansing, you are physically healed, emotionally healed, spiritually healed, and you're done. There's no connection with you and that spirit after that. It doesn't come to you and speak to you often and whatnot, like most spirits do when you are ancestrally gifted. So the person undergoes the cleansing, and the thing about the cleansing is that it will differ depending on who you went to and how this particular spirit wants to be cleansed. Okay, because I have my very own Indiki story. I will tell it to you guys, and other people have their own. And one thing that I have noticed is that these cleansings are not the same. Okay, they differ depending on what the particular ancestor wants, and also they differ depending on how the particular person who is helping you with the Indiki actually works. Okay, and also another thing I point out is that traditionally an Indiki spirit is not cleansed at a healer's home or in Dumba, but rather at the patient's home. So these days what happens that people who have Indiki would actually get healing from a Sangoma at their place, at like their Dumba and whatnot. But traditionally how it was done back in the old days is that you would not get a healing for Indiki at the Sangoma's place. It needed to be done at your place. However, I'm not going to say that healers are doing it wrong these days, simply because times have changed. People have adapted their spiritual gifts in so many different ways. Like the same way some people can actually consult people through the phone, others cannot. Like our gifts are very diverse these days. They've come out of the box that they were in, and right now people are able to do things that people back then were not able to do. So no judgment there. If you have a healer who says, "Oh, I can do the cleansing, but you have to do it at my place," that's okay. I'm not gonna say it's wrong, because personally I cannot be here saying, "Oh, this is wrong and this is right." That's not how I work. Né? So usually, traditionally, you are supposed to be done at the patient's home. But please note a few things. Now, first of all, the spirit in most cases died a very painful death. So when you have Indiki spirit, you might find that the spirit had died a very, very painful death, a very, very awful death. And that is something, remember that when a person is murdered, per se, the spirit of that particular person, it doesn't rest. The spirit lingers on, and sometimes you can actually find that spirit, it keeps reliving the traumatic experience it went through when it died. Okay. Secondly, most of them passed away for far from home, meaning what you could find out, okay, this particular person maybe ages ago, decades ago, was from Ramatlala. Then this particular person decided to move that place or leave that place, and this person left everything back at home, like all the family and whatnot, blah blah blah. They left those things back at home, then like they left those things and went to a different location, and when they got there, they passed away without actually informing their ancestors as to where it is that they went. So what happens that particular spirit is unable to rest, because that particular spirit needs to be returned back home. So that is where, Lord, you will get an Indiki cleansing for that particular spirit. And lastly, these spirits died with a lot of unfinished business. Okay, so you'd find out, okay, this particular person was actually spiritually gifted in their time. Like, most of our grandparents, they decided not to initiate for their ancestors when they had to do so. So you find out, okay, once this person is gone, they are not fully resting because of the mere fact that they have a lot of unfinished businesses. So what will happen is that sometimes, not all the times, you'd find out, okay, this particular person will choose a successor for the gift that he or she had. And what this will happen is that you might be required to go for an Indiki cleansing before you actually go into initiation. So the Indiki cleansing cleanses or removes or heals this particular spirit, so it can actually join the other ancestors. And once it has joined the other ancestors, that is where you'll actually undergo the initiation, which this particular healer was supposed to have underwent in their time of living. Then you're done with that, and from there onwards, it will be sort of like a guiding spirit in terms of helping people with the spiritual gift that it gave you. Okay, so I gave you guys 3 different scenarios, and like I said, I have my own little story of Indiki spirit. So this started when I was very young. I think I was still in primary, right? So what happened was, it was early in the morning. I was supposed to go to school. It was before that time where I have to wake up. So I actually remember waking up, then falling back into sleep immediately. But the thing is that I was very conscious of what is happening around me. But at the same time, I was seeing this whole scenario. So what I saw there was a man named who, right now, when I got older, I understood, okay, that is one of my ancestors or one of the people that lived in my family lineage. So what I saw in that dream was, okay, this man was in a particular fight with some people. I don't know if it was the apartheid times or whatnot, but it seemed like those kind of times, and it was like they were in a desert of some sort. So it was next to a mine and a very big tree, Murula tree type of thing. So this person, I see him getting beat up. And the funny thing is that in that very same dream, or rather vision, every single pain that this man was going through, I was going through it as well. I remember I was a child at that time. Né? So what happened, good, the last thing, this man was pushed into a hole and they sort of like buried him alive. So that is what I saw in that dream. And I woke up traumatized, like, what did I just see? I thought I was like maybe reliving a whole afterlife effect, or maybe reliving a movie that I watched or something like that, because I literally watched everything. Okay, so years went by, and the weird thing is that this particular dream, or rather vision, was stuck in my mind for a very long time, even when I got older. And once I was a bit older, I kept having it over and over again, and that is where I understood, okay, this is something to do with my ancestors, as opposed to me having watched a particular movie and whatnot. And when I went out and actually checked about it even more, I actually noticed, okay, I have an Indiki spirit that actually needs healing. And what this ancestor did to actually identify himself was to actually show me how he passed away and where he passed away, in a sense. So I could be able to help cleanse him and bring his spirit back to his family, his family, our family, in a sense. So after that, I was guided as to how the cleansing was supposed to be done for this particular person. Like I said, not all cleansings are done the same for ancestors. Ancestors will choose for you how you do them, when you do them, and where you do them. So thankfully for me, I was guided as to how to help this particular spirit. So I went through that cleansing, and after that, that is where the dreams actually stopped completely. Okay, so that is my own story about the Indiki spirit. So all in all, if you are a person and you are sort of like experiencing a lot of sicknesses without any signs of initiating, go and check it out to check if maybe you may be experiencing an Indiki spirit. Yeah, you maybe have an Indiki ancestor who needs healing, who needs help. Okay, and understand the difference between the Indiki and the Umdiki. Indiki is an illness. It's an illness, an ancestral illness that you get from an ancestor who wants healing. The Umdiki is a spirit, an ancestor who gives you an ancestral gift. And like I said in my previous video, with the Umdiki, what happens that you go to initiation. You initiate for Indiki, you work for, you initiate, you are governed by an Indiki. The Indiki will guide you in herbs, in healing people and all those things. Whereas the Indiki, once you are done healing it, the healing process could be a day or 3 days, depending on how intense the healing is. But once you are done with this healing process, you are done completely. There's nothing else for you to do. And once you are done, you are not a Sangoma, you are not a healer, you're not a prophet. You go back to living your own natural life. The only difference is that the sickness will leave you instantly because you have helped this particular spirit rest peacefully. Okay, so that is it for today's session. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys learned a lot from this, and I hope you guys will be able to differentiate between the two and not confuse Indiki spirit as a spiritual gift. Tukozani, bye bye. Take it slow,